taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This is Augmented Reality,
Presented by the Triple S League.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for August 1st, 2020. This is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games in the gaming industry. You're going to get all three today, and some good analysis as always. This is the Saturday edition of the show. Hope you enjoyed our pre-recorded interview with Miles Tost that we did on Wednesday, but we're back with the live show now today, and I'm here as always with Obsidian. We've also got Moontag with us again. Good morning. I know it's not morning for everybody out there, but whatever time of day it is that you're listening, we appreciate you being here. Please do say hello to us in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments. There's a lot of conversation going there already. We will read and respond to as many of your comments as we can throughout the podcast. Definitely not going, we don't see them all and can't get to them all, sadly, but the super chat option is definitely open. We read all of those as long as they're, as long as they're not going to land us in prison or something. So lots to talk about today. By the way, I'm going to introduce Moontag again because there was some confusion last week. Like, people were like, who is this voice? Moontag is not a, I was going to say a special guest. No, Moontag is, she works with us here at the Triple S League. So she's kind of been doing behind the scenes stuff, but has just recently started joining us on the podcast. So, we're glad to have you, and we're glad all of you are here in the live audience as well. Let's see, have I forgotten anything? Who cares? Today we're going to be talking about, we've got some Cyberpunk 2077 stuff to talk about, of course. We've also got some exciting things to talk about with Avowed. There's been some leaks about Obsidian's new fantasy RPG that's going to be coming out, and we're going to be discussing some things about that, what this game could be, what kind of a scope it could have now that Obsidian has all that Microsoft money behind it. Could it be a competitor to Bethesda and the Elder Scrolls series, or will it just be a nice game to sort of fill in for those who appreciate that genre while we wait for Elder Scrolls 6 in about 27 years? Also, we're going to talk about Halo Infinite because there's been some analysis and insight into why exactly it looked so crappy when they did the reveal at the Xbox Games Showcase. Was it last week? So it was a week and a half ago or so. Why did it look like it did? And Digital Foundry did some excellent... they did an excellent analysis of it, and I think they're right. And so we're going to go through. We're going to go through that. So if you're listening live today, please do slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us in YouTube that you appreciate this content. All right, where to start? Well, let's start with Cyberpunk. So we had that interview with Miles Tost, a senior level designer for Cyberpunk 2077. He works for CD Projekt Red. He started working there on The Witcher 3, and he's, of course, a senior level designer on Cyberpunk 2077. It was a great interview that took place on the Mad Queen Show's channel. We did that on Tuesday. It was a special edition of the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast, and it was really good. It was really insightful. Now, Cyb has not yet had the chance to give his insights on what Miles had to say, and so we're going to go into that, but we're also going to take a look at the Cyberpunk 2077, or the World of Cyberpunk 2077 book, the lore book. It's officially out, so we're gonna give you a few sneak peeks of what that looks like inside. Where would you like to start, Cyb?
Well, I mean, just overall, probably. I don't want to rehash the whole thing. We had really good rapport with him, which was great. A lot of great back and forth, and some pretty darn good information. I enjoyed listening to you guys talk with him, and I think you got a couple of my questions in there. And overall, it's like I think we're looking at, it's going to be a good game because these guys listen, and this is something that that other companies haven't been doing as much. And it's kind of interesting because I was really like engrossed in this topic in the last like couple of hours here, is how much does a game company listen to players, and how much does a game company go out of its way to communicate with their player base, with their fans, and find out what they want, what they need, and what they're looking forward to, and then find interesting ways to give them those things. Because you don't always want to give those things directly, because there is a point where some people do have like, you know, either it's like rose colored glasses on a memory of something, or they don't really understand how certain factors in a game can be thrown off by doing a particular thing. But you want to be as close to giving them what they want, whilst always giving them, you know, some flavoring to it. It's like if somebody is asking for, mashed potatoes, you want to give them just a little bit of salt or cream in it to make it, you know, good. But if they're lactose intolerant, you want to, you know, give it something else that gives it that a little bit something different than other than just what they're asking for. You always want to like add some creative spice to it, not by changing the menu, saying like, hey, I really like this thing, called apple pie, can I get some apple pie, and they drop, a spicy bowl of soup in your lap. It's like you want to be close to what they're asking for, but always want to like change it in interesting ways where they're like, oh, that's different, oh, this is exactly what I wanted, but there's a little bit more to it. That's the kind of thing. Because you look at a company like Blizzard, and they've really had to face this in the last like few years, is that they were coming up with stuff to give their people, but they were giving them something that was completely not asked for. It's like, hey, we've got you this thing, and it's completely not what anybody wanted, and everybody's like, yeah, but we really wanted this, and they're like, you don't need that. What are you thinking about? And they've had to like really face themselves, whereas CDPR has kept this very like core thing of like, we're giving the players what we're creating, what we know that they like from us, and we're just tweaking it enough to give them a surprise, you know. And they've been doing this very well with with Cyberpunk, you know, in comparison to The Witcher. You know, they didn't just give us The Witcher, you know, in Cyberpunk. This is what a lot of people were thinking that they wanted, and they didn't realize how much they actually wanted this other thing. And this other thing has suddenly made it better for them, and has made them, more beloved, because they've gone out of their way to increase that interaction there, to give them something that expands them beyond just the regular thing that they were expecting. And so he covered that a lot in a lot of the topics that we brushed up again. And again, if you haven't heard it, check out the premiere video that we did on Wednesday, because it just kind of goes over it, and you add in some extra notes, and there's also a little bit at the end there that you threw in through that. So it's cool that we got a couple of good confirmations that we can go underwater, and there's a couple of things in there. So, you know, even though they haven't made the world for underwater exploration, but because the game is an exploration game, they want to add some of those natural boundaries that don't, you know, that don't restrict you in your movement like some other people would. Some other people, you know, either there's an invisible wall and you can never get into the water, or you can only get in the water until like, you know, up to your ankles, and then you can't go any deeper. It's like, nah, they let you swim, because why not?
Yeah.
And there's not too much to find under the water, but you can swim if you want to. If you really want to swim and you want to look wet, then you can go ahead. And
Exactly.
and I think that's great. I think that works just fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, he made it clear that it's not like there's going to be a plethora of underwater content. There's probably going to be something here or there. That's the impression I got. But there's not going to be, it's not primarily designed for that. I think it'd be cool if your natural boundary for the world is like, you just can swim out forever and then eventually get eaten by a shark or something. That that'd be funny.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I always really like the water elements in games with graphics such as this, right? So it's nice that they're adding that little touch of exploration Just a little extra bit.
Now, I asked Miles if there's stuff underground to explore. Like, is there something hidden beneath the city? He I don't know if he avoided the question or just didn't really, just didn't get around to answering that part of it because I asked the water thing at the same time. He did confirm we will not be going to space, but
Well, he said yes, no, maybe. He said no, yes, maybe.
oh yeah, that's
And
right,
I
that's
thought
right.
that
Yeah,
was
he said no,
yeah,
and then he was like, maybe, I don't know.
yeah.
It's it's interesting trying to interpret some of the answers that he gave, and that any of those CDPR folks give at times. They try to give us an answer without revealing too much.
Yeah, and like just he went into a couple of my highlights is that he did go into like how their open world content has been so big and so new that even he running around the game finds things that are fresh and things that he didn't really know about. And that speaks to the giganticness of the team, right? And how much the team is literally changing literally everything. Um, as far as like what in a normal game, even in an open world game, it's like most of the designers have a pretty good idea of what's in the game, all the leads at least, because they live and breathe it. But if it's so big that even he is finding new stuff, then that bodes a really good sign for the size of it, and then for the natural like explorationness of the game, and that's great because I know that they've had a lot of people working on that for so long. So yeah. Then we also kind of got the confirmation that if you go bad, you have to deal with the cops and or whoever else is in there, and that cyber cycles will also roam the streets. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and the just the general openness of the world is going to be pretty great as far as like what that can react to. Yeah. So that and I think you mentioned about how the combat has been, getting better and better and better, and that's exciting. I'm still not a huge fan of the melee in first person because you lack any kind of peripheral vision, which is as a melee fighter, somebody who's done melee fighting, this is incredibly important that games just can't capture right now unless you're doing it in VR. Uh,
Yeah.
which then that's really pushes that to the next gen, right? So and again, because I harp on this subject so much, I want people to realize that I'm not a fan of the first person. I think the first person, as far as like the aspect that you're stepping into when you step into the concept of going into the VR, that obviously is a new frontier that is going to really push the boundaries on that. And that's great because that makes it so if you're really like spatially aware, right? Things are so good when you can be so spatially aware and you can do stuff without necessarily seeing where it is or just by like the feel and the reaction and the muscle memory. And so that kind of stuff is great and I'm looking forward to that. And we may end up seeing that in this game at some point in the future, which I mean, it's either modded or probably modded. Let me just make that clear. Most likely modded in, but the opportunity to kind of go through that and see that is something that intrigues me a lot. Just unfortunately, right now it's not my preferred course of action with this. But generally, it's like this is not a bad thing for the game. It's not a bad thing for gaming in general. This is a good thing that this is ramping that up as part of the evolution into future games, and so that's actually a very good thing. And again, I want to reiterate that because it's important.
Well, that peripheral vision thing it's tricky for anything. I mean, even just first person shooting stuff. You just don't on a typical screen. Like you can get super widescreen monitors and things like that, but on typically you're just gonna have a difficult time. Like in real life, you can see something. If something moves, even like right beside you, like you almost have a 180-degree field of view. Not all of it is crystal clear, but you can detect movement in your peripheral vision. you just, unless you have like super ridiculously wide monitor and you crank up your FOV, you just don't have that in a game. So it's a tricky thing for anything. I like first person melee in general. It's limited, of course. In any game, it's limited. But like Dishonored, I loved the sword combat in Dishonored and Dishonored 2. Like they did a really good job with that. I think it was about as good as it could be at the time, with the technology they had. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just him going into a little bit more on like the animal companion and the other stuff. It's something that I think that they're working with the best that they can, and so I would encourage people generally not to kind of like fear too much. Like I think it's going to be fine.
I think so. Like he went into detail about why they removed the flathead bot as like a companion and what they did with the techie skills. Like they didn't remove the techie skills. They just kind of rolled them in with the net running skills in a lot of in a lot of cases, because they were having like it seemed kind of arbitrary. Like, okay, a techie can hack this, but a net runner can hack this. Da 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 da. Like he was saying, it was just arbitrary, kind of difficult to understand, difficult to define a rule set for. So they decided to simplify it in a sense and roll it in with net running. But the techie skills are still there. And the important thing to remember is that there's no defined classes in this game. Like you can make like he what did he call it? He was like you can make a solo you can create a solo or any of the classes, a lot of the classes from the tabletop game. You can create those. You can build the skill set that makes it that kind of character. But you don't go in, you're not picking a class at the beginning of the game. It's the skill tree is completely open. You can go in any direction. You can combine, you can make a hybrid class of some kind. So you want to be a techie, you can be a techie. It'll just be it's not, you don't pick the techie class at the beginning of the game. It's just it all depends on how you invest your skill points, etc. All right.
So yeah, no, just overall it was really great. Please listen to it and add your comments, because that's a great way that we can like monitor that kind of stuff. I see a lot of great comments in that video, and yeah.
Game notes in the chat says Street Samurai playthrough is something I'd watch on Twitch. Street Samurai playthrough, yeah, that's tempting. I like the katana mechanics. They do appear a little bit stiff, but like I do like that first person sword play. Now I don't think it's going to be kind of the like it's not going to be Dishonored 2 level. Let's put it that way. With the drop assassinations and the accurate parrying and things like that. Yeah.
There was a mention in the live chat too about the people who made the best melee game ever did a really good job with the Dishonored melee, and I agree. Like that was a super fun game to play. Just with the different combinations you could do.
Yeah. And then like there's other systems like Kingdom Come Deliverance had a really interesting system. Like the melee combat system in that was different than anything else I'd ever seen. It was very complicated actually. But it was trying to go for realism.
Yeah.
And it was actually very difficult to do the swordplay properly. I can't exactly remember how it worked, but I do remember the it being a very interesting system that I really enjoyed. It made you kind of question. I think kind of in real life, like you wouldn't. It kind of made you measure: do I really want to get into a fight with this dude because he might kick my ass? And like in real life, you'd be dead then. So yeah, I kind of like that aspect. Lord of the Dice points out that the stiffness might be because they had low skill level. That's very true too. That's something to keep in mind. It's been, we discussed this quite a while back now, but the animations and the fluidity of how things work gets better as your skills with something increase. So that's a very, as far as we know, that's not an aspect that's been removed or anything. So we can anticipate seeing that kind of a thing in the game. So yeah, like the as you get better and better, with a sword or with a gun or with anything, it's going to become more fluid. It's going to become less stiff, basically.
Yeah, and I mean it's the tricky thing, right? When it boils down to the game. So yeah, how that kind of like works out, we'll see. And that was always my worry about that, because there's just so much more that you could do in like a 3D like third person, like especially when you encounter those like add in those like time slow effects. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Use the katana in that way. It's like, oh man, it's so fun. It's so good. And yeah, so we'll like you're saying, it's a really good baseline, and I hope that we see nothing but improvements coming down here. So yeah, this is really, really important, and we're gonna see some great stuff with this. So yeah.
Hello, Max Darrett in the chat saying, "Hey, Cyber Ash, you missed the first 20 minutes. What did you miss? You missed everything, my friend. You missed everything." No, we've been talking Cyberpunk. It's been a good conversation. Yeah, let's see here. So we're going to look at some of the images from the Cyberpunk. I keep wanting to say the Cyberpunk 2077 World book. I don't know why. It's the World of Cyberpunk 2077 book. Anyway, though, Moontag, you wanted to talk about what you're looking forward to as far as the game, and especially if you have any comments on our interview with Miles. Let us know.
Yes. Actually, no, I was really interested when he was talking about the door creation, because I was like, oh yeah, there has to be somebody who makes doors and like gives it the go ahead. And just like hearing the sort of process to create the levels is like, hey, I have an idea. And just the sort of process to go with that is really, really interesting. And I'm really looking forward to how they have that set up, because one of my frustrations with some other games is like, I'll go in, I'll play a game, I'll have a bunch of quests and missions or whatever, but then like I might take a break for whatever reason, life stuff, and then I'll come back to it, and I'm like, what do I do? Where do I go? So I'm interested to see where they go with that, because it would be nice to have a game that you can just like, you play it for what you can, and then like if stuff happens, you can like put it down and then pick it back up again, like right where you left off at, right? And the other part I'm looking forward to is the music and the audio, because like I love like walking around like towns and cities, or like wherever there's people, and like listening to like what I can from like the dialogue that I have written, whether it's like just like some mundane daily conversation, or if it's something that's got like some extra lore inside there that I need to investigate, right?
Oh, I think it's gonna be dope. I think it's the music is so good. The tracks we've heard, and
Yes.
then
Oh
the
my
atmosphere just walking around the world is, I think, going to be fantastic. All right. Speaking of which, let's take a look. We're just going to show you a few shots from inside the World of Cyberpunk 2077 book. So here's one. So I just found this rather funny. The self-defense is a family affair, apparently. The pregnant woman. I'm just having this vision of her like getting the ultrasound, and the baby inside is like packing an SMG or something. I mean, obviously not, but that's just a funny image in my head. And that dude, he looks like an actor that I've seen in a bunch of things.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it's that similar, so that they don't have a lawsuit. But no, it looks pretty decent.
Yeah. Also, I'm just gonna pan the picture up a bit here. We got Grandpa in the background, totally tricked out with his. He's like gone almost full mech. Looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like Stan Lee. Like, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's another bit of concept art. This was just fascinating to me because it's this guy's like a runner, a racer of some kind, wearing the Arasaka branding, and he's getting tuned up like a car at the side of the Indy 500 or something. He's in.
How fast do you think that change-up would be?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This one has. Oh man, I keep moving the wrong one here. That's because that one's locked. No wonder. Yeah, here I'm just gonna move the picture to give you a. It was hard to fit these on the screen because they're largely vertical. But yeah, so he's looks like he hasn't started the race yet. He's just getting ready to go. And then we have just some more concept art. Looks kind of interesting. This guy looks like half dead. And I just realized that's some serious nipple action we have going on the screen. Oh, whoops.
Intense.
But some... all right. Some more concept art. So we got Royce here. And, yeah, so quite a bit of cool stuff in this book. So it's not. There is a lot of art that we've seen before, but there's some other stuff that's brand new. Spasmuffin asks, Panzer Boy, is that a new gang? Potentially. I was wondering that myself. I don't recall seeing that gang name before. That was the previous picture here. He's got Panzer Boys tattooed on his arm. And a giant A tattooed right above his nipple. So I don't know what he is. And I don't know what that is sticking out of his head either. Almost looks like a cigarette dispenser.
Totally. Like, he's not wearing a shirt anyways. Where else is he going to put it?
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep him somewhere. So I just want to see if there's anything else interesting. Oh yeah, it's lower down on this page. There's a bit more.
By the way, Panzer Boys is a class that was added to the game.
A class? Like an
NPC
NPC
it was in the
class?
supplemental. No, a character class.
Oh, okay. So, oh yeah, I just wanted to talk about the enemy AI a little bit, because Miles had mentioned this. He said the enemy AI looked, from playing the game, I mean, he's not involved in that side of the development, but Miles said, from playing the game, he says the AI seems pretty smart. But he also mentioned that the enemy NPCs, they can use some of the same skills you have, including like the inhaler that gives you the slowdown effect. And so I'm picturing we're going to have situations where, you'll use your slowdown effect. So everybody in the world slows down, but one of them is you'll have like one dude who also uses it, and then he'll be moving at normal speed while everybody else is like moving slow. That'll be interesting. That'll be really interesting. Let's see. Yeah, so Hideous Conformity saying Panzer Boy is a class that was added in a Cyberpunk 2020 supplement. Interesting. Terra K. Well, the guy on the bottom right is just asking for a headshot. Yeah, there you go.
I thought so too.
What else here? Okay. Flavio. I don't see how you get that comparison. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so very cool stuff. And finally, we just wanted to warn everybody, there's a scam going on. There's somebody is tweeting.
Oh yeah, I was gonna open with a bit.
Okay.
Hang on. I think I got the bit. So Ash, we just got an invite to a special cool game and a movie preview. All we have to do is send them a bunch of our credit card information, personal information, mailing address, social insurance number, and a bunch of other things. We're totally gonna go to this, right?
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
I don't know what my lines are here.
No, it's just yeah.
No,
So yeah, no, it just the shocking. It's always so shocking to me when people are like, "Oh yeah, that's just normal." It's like, what's normal? But no, that's not what. No. So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's guys. Companies don't routinely give away things like this in this way, and you always got to check it. Always got to check it.
yeah.
Oh, don't give them your info. Just please don't give them your info.
Yeah, so there's um, somebody's messing around, sending out fake invites to the Cyberpunk 2077 beta. Couple of things about this the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account has addressed this and said, yes, these are fake. If we contact you via email, it'll always come from an @cdprojectred.com address. They don't use third parties for that kind of thing. Plus, they're just not planning a public beta anyway, or a private out of company beta. They're just not doing that. Anyway, they got into a rather funny back and forth with Devolver Digital on Twitter, though. It is hilarious. I meant to have this screenshot queued up, but I don't have it. Shoot. Oh well, it's really funny. If you go check out their Twitter account, you can see Devolver Digital's response, and they got into a funny back and forth. It's quite amusing. It's quite amusing. Two companies that I'm, fairly big fans of.
We like them. We like them. They're good. They're good people.
All right, you're listening to the Augmented Reality podcast. It's kind of a special. Before we get to the next bits of news, it's kind of a special day because tomorrow, August 2nd, 2020, is 5 years to the day from the release of our very first podcast and our very first video here at the Triple S League. So it's kind of our 5th anniversary. Of course, we started we started this before that. There was some prep work. There were some attempted podcasts that never saw the light of day because they were terrible. But anyway, it's kind of our 5th anniversary tomorrow. So I just wanted to play you a tiny clip. I meant to do this at the beginning, but it's been kind of chaotic this morning. But anyway, it's kind of
I wouldn't have played that at the beginning. Most people would have immediately shut it off.
Fair enough. I just want to play you the first minute or so of our very, very first podcast called the Nuka-Cola Lounge. Anyway, here you go. It's the Nuka-Cola Lounge, presented by the Triple S League.
How are those hot little potatoes?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nuka-Cola Lounge, where we talk about all things Fallout. My name is Ash, and I'm here with Cyb.
Hello.
And to kick off our premiere episode, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite flat irradiated drink, Nuka-Cola. And it's good stuff. We actually are, in conjunction with this, we're doing a series of videos where we actually make Nuka-Cola with some recipes that Cyb has dug up somewhere in the depths of the internet. And it's good stuff. Bethesda has something big on their hands with this.
They do. They have trademarked Nuka-Cola. So they appear to be planning to do something. We don't quite know yet. The other thing that's really cool is that a lot of people don't realize is there's more than one type of Nuka-Cola. There's the regular, and then there's about 15 different flavors.
Okay, so that's probably enough of that. that's
the audio is like, hey, I have a brilliant idea. Let's record this in the largest room of my house. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was very bad. So we've come a long way since then. But anyway, it's fun to kind of look back at what we were doing. We sound so young in that. How do we sound? We sound very Canadian. That's what I noticed. At least I do. I was like, wow, the accent is strong with this one. It seems like I had more of an accent back then. Dang, it's starting to feel like I'm getting old now. And yes, the first video was about pop. We kind of branched off. We actually did videos making Nuka-Cola. Well, Side made the Nuka-Cola. It was really, really good. Damn, it was super good. Anyway, that's basically all we're doing to celebrate our 5th anniversary because we were just too busy to do anything else. But all right, let's get into the Avowed leaks. Now, Avowed announced at the Xbox showcase, again about a week and a half ago. It's a first-person RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, the makers of Fallout New Vegas, The Outer Worlds. This is a big project they've been working on, and I believe this, correct me if I'm wrong, Si, but this would have been started right around the time Microsoft purchased them, or shortly thereafter.
This has been so there's some leaks that have come out, and I can confirm this leak. This is the game that they pitched to Microsoft and said, look, we can't make this a game by ourselves, but with your help and financing, we would be able to make this game. And we would be able to make this game to the point that we think that it would, potentially be the new big thing. And so that was their pitch. And they were finishing up production on The Outer Worlds when they had done this. This game in some form or in some format had been they had been working on it for quite a while. It takes place in their Pillars of Eternity universe, so a lot of the lore was already done. A lot of the not the lore for the game, but the lore for the universe has already been done. And so there's been a lot of work going into this. So I can confirm a couple of these things that have come out as far as these leaks go. And again, this is just as a reminder, when you hear leaks, like, you got to understand that there's some leaks that are true when nobody has access to the information, and most of the leaks that were put out here kind of fall more or less into that category. So is this the game that they pitched to Microsoft? Absolutely. It's kind of like duh. It's the first major game that they've had working under Microsoft, working with the new consoles. So obviously, yes, it's kind of like a doy, right? The other thing that's confirmed is that the game will most likely feature both first person and third person gameplay.
Oh, really?
First person was only showed in the trailer, but third person is probably a really solid bet, primarily because they just hired a bunch of people that specialize in third person stuff. It was up on their it had been up on their website for quite a while for job postings, and has recently been filled, and there was more than one. So would they be, do they need to be doing this for are they doing this for Outer Worlds? No, probably not. Are they doing it for their oh darn, what's that little game called? The little the one out in the garden in the back, essentially.
Yeah, Grounded. Well, that one's already out, and that one has been shown to be third person.
Yeah. So, and that one's that's already third person, and they're working kind of with it. They can do some minor improvements, but they don't need that many improvements. So that again seems to say that they're not bringing it in for this one. Obviously, all hands are on deck, essentially, as far as Grounded and Avowed goes. I doubt they're going to be working on a third title. So by process of general elimination and just what we know from the studio, yep, that's it. That's what they're doing. That's what that's for. And we know that they've always been a fan of doing first and third person because it allows the greatest blend of world exploration, building, story, and a bunch of other stuff. And that this was their plan with The Outer Worlds, but they simply ran out of time, and they also ran out of the money that they were using to invest in that creation. So they would have had to delay it, and they also would have had to get money from somebody other than Microsoft, essentially, from the point where they wanted to add that in. So yes, This third person is something that they're actively very interested in including, and this is definitely going to go that way. There's also a good chance that the game is being propped up for support for VR as well. So this is something to kind of like raise your eyebrow at. This means that we're looking at, this is probably going to be one of the big next gen games as far as VR goes, because it's going to be bringing in a lot of new tech and improvements to core systems for quite a while. So yeah, so yes, the third person aspect in this game, as well as like additional VR support, it's basically confirmed. So just
That's interesting, and it's not surprising at all. I mean, they've got Microsoft behind them. Obviously, they're going to want this to be a big seller on their new console. They're going to want it to have next gen tech. VR is kind of if you've got the money to do it, yeah, that would make sense. Especially with the sword play and the magic and stuff, could be really cool with a VR setup.
Yeah, so that's basically a confirmation there. Darn, I forgot the other one. They are hiring a ton of people right now. A ton. Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by ton. They're hiring definitely almost 15 positions right now. So they've been increasing their team over the last year. They've been hiring pretty nonstop. There's a new member joining almost every week at the very least. So that just overall really generally great progression on that. And there is, again, there's one of these, there's another leak here that I wanted to address because I could also confirm that one to be true.
Well, I will, I'm going to go through them here. I'm going to go through what's been leaked. Obviously, take this with a grain of salt. These leaks come from Reset Era. I know a lot of you are cringing right now, but they're from a user there called Sponger, and as there are other sort of leakers with credibility and other industry insiders who are
that are confirming it.
They're hinting that this guy has some credibility and that.
I don't think you could say he has credibility. The information has credibility, but again, and I really want to have everybody really understand this. The credibility comes from the fact that a lot of this information is essentially public information that just hasn't been officially announced yet, like the third person. They've been hiring people for third person. They've always stated that is their goal. They stated that one of their biggest disappointments, now I remember the other one, one of their biggest disappointments with the Outer Worlds is that they couldn't do third person in combination with the first person. And again, we're not asking, whenever I bring this up, I'm not asking for an either or, I'm asking for both. It's always both, because I want you to get into a game. If you want to play it entirely through first person, to be able to do that. If you want to do it entirely in third person, I want you to do that. And if the camera and cinematic department wants to include some really amazing first person animation, conversations, dialogue, I want them to have that ability to do that as well. And then I want there to be as many options as you can. I don't like games that limit our options into a singular thing. If you can include passive VR support so that people can boot it up in VR and modders can take that that basic platform and really start to play with it, I'm entirely game for that too. I would absolutely love a VR support system for either Civilization or Humankind, because I really want to play like a god in the clouds looking down on his beautiful world and moving all the units around. I don't know, but for whatever reason, that sense of in the clouds, directing everything before me and bringing my mighty hand of destruction and vengeance down on those stupid barbarian tribes. It's just something really satisfying about that. So I'm never against this kind of stuff, and I really want to make this
scary world where you're the deity. I think.
So the other thing that I can also confirm is that yes, they are bringing mod support to this game. They're going to be bringing it fairly early on. Again, Obsidian Entertainment they really encapsulated this concept. They, as well as Bethesda, have always seen the validity and the importance of bringing user created content to their game. It adds an enormous amount of continued interaction with the game. It adds a ton of other stuff. And again, you don't have to be an insider to know this. They've talked about how these are important things. They've talked about how in their with the Outer Worlds that the two things that they wish to include the most, and that it was on their list to do, and if they had the time and if they had the money, they would add third person and mod support, because they understand the importance of both of those things, period. And again, you don't have to be an insider to know this. When this insider has stated these things, I can confirm them to be true, because anybody can confirm them to be true. All you have to do is listen to an interview with them talking about the goals and aspects of what they as a studio see as important things. And these are two of their top things that are often optional and that they don't always get a chance to get around to, but that they enjoy and that they want to get out there, as far as giving the players the access and the ability to get access to this content, to this type of content. So this is something from the get-go that A, they've been hiring for, B, we know that is on their list of priorities, and the only thing that limits them is not having enough money. And they don't have that problem anymore, because they've got Big Daddy Warbucks funding the entire thing.
Indeed. Well, I'm excited to see what they can do. It's kind of it's a
And,
new era for Obsidian, and it's kind of interesting to see what they can do with a big budget behind them. It's also interesting that they seem to be. Sorry, go ahead, and then I'll make my point.
Yeah. Also, just wanted to get to this question from Schedule. Josh Sawyer is definitely involved. I mean, he's still working there. So, if there's anything else to that question, please shoot that out.
All right. But as some of you may know, Obsidian Entertainment has some history with Bethesda. They created Fallout New Vegas, which many hail as the best Fallout game of the 3D Fallout games. And Bethesda, there's also some history there with Bethesda kind of screwing them over.
A little bit.
So it's interesting. So then they created the Outer Worlds, which, I mean, is not, it's very different from Fallout, but at the same time has a lot of that same feel. And as far as I know, there's a lot of Fallout fans who appreciated that game, and now they're going after the high fantasy genre. Interesting. So this is sparked some debate about, is this going to be a major competitor for the Elder Scrolls series? And that's something interesting we could definitely talk about down the road. Now, this is going to be, according to the leaks, which I'm going to go through them all in just a sec here. The target date is late 2022 to early 2023. So we're not going to be playing this game for a while yet. But still, that's going to be out long before the next Elder Scrolls game. So is it going to... Now, personally, my take on this is it's not going to dethrone the Elder Scrolls. But it could definitely be something to fill the gap. I mean, we're getting an Elder Scrolls game like the last one was almost 10 years ago now. And the next one's a few years away yet. I mean, it's not even Bethesda's next game. We still got Starfield to come, and they've been unnervingly silent about that one. Plus, Bethesda's been in some hot water, I mean, with fans and others, just due to a whole bunch of things. I mean, a whole bunch of reasons in general, but especially with stuff surrounding Fallout 76. So, anyway, I think there's been a lot of eyes on Obsidian lately because they, the Outer Worlds was, some were saying it's like a Fallout killer or the spiritual successor to Fallout, that kind of a thing. And there's probably going to be a lot of similar sentiment with Avowed, with regard to the Elder Scrolls. Now, I don't think they're going to like kill Bethesda. I mean, I don't think Bethesda's going anywhere anytime soon. and hopefully we're hoping here, like, we'd like Starfield and the next Elder Scrolls to be really good. Like, I'm pretty sure you agree on that side. Like, we'd like them to be good games. We'd like for Bethesda to go back on, to correct some of their missteps and do things right with both of those games. We want them to go back to being a studio that we can fully support.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm really looking forward to this game because they're also saying from the ground up that they're going to include a lot of like next gen AI to this, which again, I know everybody was kind of like, oh, Halo Infinite looks really crappy, and it looks really crappy mostly because of the lighting effects, but the open worldness of the game, if they're bringing that tech over to this and improving upon it, we are going to see a really, 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 really good game.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to see a game that probably threatens to dethrone, Bethesda as the king of the open world games. And I know some people are like, yeah, what about Rockstar? Rockstar. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's a different kind of game. So, I mean, and Flavio, like, we're not defending Bethesda by any stretch. We're saying we want them to be better, is what we're saying.
I want everybody to improve. I don't want anybody to be stuck in their bad habits, But if you lynch somebody, they're going to be stuck in their bad habits forever. So, at some point we got to look at Bethesda and say, hey, be better and I'll support you again.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like, we don't.
Like, we're not looking. I don't want an angry crowd to bust down their door and just pull everything out in the street and burn it all. Like, that's just. I mean, you just don't do that. Logical, calm people do not do that. Insane tyrants and crazy people do that. And it never ever 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 goes the way that they think it will. I was telling this to Moon the other day. At no point in history has that ever gone down the way that the bulk of those people in that crowd think it's going to go down. They go, "Oh yeah, we're gonna reset everything," and yeah, usually what ends up happening is when if they manage to have some success, they never see that success because they're often the next people on the list to be because why would you, as the new overlord, keep the people who know how to overthrow you? Like, you just don't do that. You just don't do that. And so from Bethesda's perspective, I don't want them to suffer. I want them to change. If they continue to not change, then yes, they're going to suffer. But that's not the first and foremost thing that I want to have happen to them, because it isn't unless they refuse to move, right? So, yeah.
Do you have some thoughts on that, Moon?
Well, one of the many great facets about humanity is the possibility of redemption, right? Because, like, how can we improve if we're not allowed any sort of forgiveness, right? So, like, somebody puts something out, they get some feedback, and then they tweak it to make it better. Like, because, like, even like when you make mistakes, you like try to aim to make it only once, never again, like never if you can, but we're only human, so.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be, again, will it be a direct competitor? Well, I think the timelines of the two games kind of, it's not like they're going to be released at the same time, so they won't be competing in that aspect, but will it kind of give Bethesda a run for its money as far as the quality? And especially if Avowed has mod support, and if it has that full first-person, third-person thing, I mean, it could. There's potential there for it to dethrone the Elder Scrolls and the kind of I guess the title of longevity and just user. There's still like Skyrim is just still one of the most played games, and like the modding capabilities of that game have just given it incredible sticking power, and
And
you know
it's
they
still-
keep re-releasing
it's
it
still
because it
going
keeps
on.
selling it. Like it's a popular game despite its flaws. So yeah, if they can match that, if they can match what people love about Skyrim, and improve on the formula, there's potential there for it to be a long sticking game.
Yeah, it's like familiar enough to be comforting, but like different enough to be interesting.
Plus, it'll be the more the better, right? The more of these rich worlds we can get lost in, I think, the better. It's just nothing but good for us as consumers. All right, let's look at some of these some of the specific leaks now. So again, this is from that Reset Era user. Sponger, right. Sorry, I had to find it on my screen here. So, again, take with a grain of salt. Also remember things can change. Like, this game is 2 to 3 years away. Things are going to change. Some of this may not be exactly as it's written here. But the information here appears to have a degree of reliability. But again, always take with a grain of salt. So, fully open world, much larger than Skyrim, although larger in a different way. Kind of like what we've talked about with Cyberpunk before. It sounds like it's going to be denser and more contrasted. So like good contrast between regions, I think is what that means. And a world more densely packed with content, not necessarily sprawling horizontally larger than Skyrim's map. Although it probably, I would imagine it would be larger in that way too. But more packed with content. And then it's apparently going to be primarily set in the Living Lands region of Eora. Again, that could change. Like, that's one of those things that could change, but that was apparently their starting point. There's going to be a big focus on world reactivity, lighting, and next-gen AI systems and physics, and a special focus on physics in the magic system. Now, what does that mean? I have no idea. I don't know if either of you have any idea what that could mean, but apparently the magic casting and magic systems in the game are going to be tied up with the physics system. No idea what that mechanic's going to look like, but that sounds really awesome. Real-time weather system, very advanced character creation tool. There will be mod support.
So again, going back to the advanced weather system. Again, you don't have to be an insider to assume that in a big, massive open world thing that's what they're going to go for.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right, and then what was the one after that you said?
A very advanced character creation tool. So I mean,
oh Lord, you mean one of the companies that does the most advanced character creation tools is going to have an advanced character creation tool? Again, this is where it's like the info this person posted is not bad info. It's also not info that is like, I mean, I could have created this list off the top of my head.
Well, for
because
some
it's
of
like
it,
it's all really, really obvious stuff if you're in the industry and you know anything about anything. So
right, but I mean, like specifics about the setting and like things like a physics-based magic system. Those kinds of things are more specific.
I think most people know that this has been something that's been growing in popularity. And this might be one of the biggest things that he actually does have actual inside information on, would be this one. Because this is kind of a gamble, because if it doesn't show up, then he's obviously, full of bull. But this is something that, like, we saw this in Divinity Original Sin 2. We're seeing this come back again in Baldur's Gate 3. So this is a system that is becoming more interesting, and you have more tools to play with this now. So yeah, this is very possibly kind of a good thing. But yeah,
He does say there will be mod support. A very large number of factions with a different approach than Skyrim, whatever that means. You'll be able to have companions. I mean, no surprise there. The story will be a fight against an incoming threat of tyranny, but it'll be independent from the previous stories told in the Pillars of Eternity games. The game has bosses planned, and some of them are very, very large. And the deities in the game apparently will have a lot of involvement in what happens. It just says here they will have a special say in the game, whatever. Again, hard to know what that actually means. But there will be a great focus on iconic landmarks, statues, and buildings. Again, not a huge surprise there. And I think that's one of the things that gives the Elder Scrolls its huge appeal, is like you feel like you're living in this old world. You're feeling like you're living in this world that has a ton of history and a very rich system of, all these different belief systems and a lot of history that went into it to get things to where they are now. And so if they can do that, that'll definitely. I mean, they already have the Pillars of Eternity lore to pull from, so there you go. Let's see. 2 large cities are planned with many smaller ones. A strong focus on contrasting wild areas, rivers, mountains, and desolated areas. Fully respects the Pillars of Eternity creatures lore, with some new additions. Dynamic presentation of dialogue. For now, their idea is to have it you can kill everyone in the game option, similar to Outer Worlds. Around 100 people have been working on this project for 2 years, and in total, it's been in production, including pre-production, for 2 years and 7 months. And it's in full production. The team will still grow as you've been talking about. They're hiring for this actively, and their target release date is late 2022 to early 2023. So, that's painfully far away. But I don't know. Should be hopefully worth the wait. I mean, we've got so much Cyberpunk to play between now and then. I guess we're spoiled.
Yeah.
But
no, this is definitely been the big showcase for Microsoft, and I think things will only get better from here on out. I really, really do. We're going into a new season for gaming, and we're moving past a lot of things that have been around for a long time, and we're also seeing a evolution in a bunch of new areas. So I am excited for this. I am very positive about this. I have nothing but a positive feeling towards where we're going and what we're doing and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think it's good. I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what do you think, Moontag? Is this your kind of game?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Just with all the detail and the exploration, and just so many options, so much to explore.
It should be really cool. It looked, and the trailer for it, if you haven't seen it, it's, I don't know. It was just really neat. I really liked the cinematic trailer that they did. Like first person, like with the camera following the arrow and like shooting into that skeleton thing. It's just so cool. So cool. Yeah. All right. You are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. And we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. We've had a couple of contests going on this month, and they're both closed now. But the Monster Metropolis giveaway, thank you so much for all of the entries on that. We are going through them. We'll be tallying the winner today, and it'll be announced. The winner of that, as well as the winners of the other contests from our other colleagues, will be announced on the Cyberpunk 2077 Community Podcast tomorrow on Last Known Meals YouTube channel. So definitely tune into that. You will hear the winner of our contest, as well as the winners of, the contests that Mad Queen, Neon Arcade, and Last Known did. That's a giveaway for a $500 prize pack from Artel Saurian Games and Monster Fight Club. Very cool stuff. We got some great entries, and we're going to look for a way to showcase them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, our NPC, tell us about your favorite NPC from Cyberpunk contest. More of a community event than a contest, but we are doing a giveaway. We've got something special planned for that. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting backburnered due to other deadlines and things. But the result, the final resolution of that will be coming. We'll be giving away one game key at least, maybe some more. And there's another event that's going to be happening today. Moontag, you're doing some kind of a watch party for Goblin Slayer. Why don't you tell us about that?
That's right. So, Goblin Slayer has been an anime that's really come up over the last year or so. And they just put out the movie Goblin's Crown. Just made it available on Crunchyroll since July 28. So, some of us are going to be gathering on the Discord to talk about it after the podcast.
And I saw a big thing, and we kind of made an announcement about it. I saw this ad. It went free. Watch Goblin Slayer free, and I was like, "Oh, watch Goblin Slayer for free! Wow, that's amazing. That's a really good marketing strategy." And then we were like, look into it after we did the announcement. It's like, oh no! You get a poster for free if you watch it. I'm like, I get the poster for free if I download it from any visual site ever. That's not the same as free.
Yeah.
Not only it's a digital poster, not even a physical one.
Yeah. So, and they're giving away if you happen to watch the movie whilst, whatever. So, at any rate, we're still going to go ahead. We're still going to watch it if you get a Crunchyroll account. You can hop in and watch it. If you get a significant other with a whatever account or family member with an account, it's like, yeah, you can watch it too. So yeah, we're gonna kind of watch that one. It's a very gritty. It's basically like D&D. Like it legitimately is D&D, and they basically made a good, really good movie about it. So the series is great. You don't have to watch the series to see what's catching up on this, because basically you're just going to be watching like essentially a bunch of D&D characters go in and try to complete essentially a big dungeon, and it's going to be like pretty gruesome and crazy and whatnot. So if you're interested in that and hanging out with us, hop in the Discord. We'll figure out how to get it running for everybody. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. So when are you doing that? Right after the podcast?
I think so.
Fairly shortly after, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, hit up the Discord server and join in on that.
It's either that or we'll watch Time Being Wreck Another Ship.
Because
sail another ship.
There's been lots of live streaming happening in the server as well. So join up if you haven't. It's a fun place. It's a good community where we're doing everything we can to keep it a fun and positive place. All right. Just one more topic to get to for the podcast today. So we're going to talk about Halo Infinite, and we're going to talk about why it looked, in many people's opinion, why did it look so current gen or even past gen, and why did it look so bad? And this is fascinating to me because I love kind of learning about this technical stuff about how games are rendered, etc. But the background on this is, if you watched the Xbox Games Showcase, again about a week and a half ago, they opened with gameplay from Halo Infinite, and it was kind of disappointing for a lot of people. It looked flat. It looked very plastic. Like, the graphics just did not look all that great. The gameplay looked decent. I mean, a lot of aspects of the game looked decent, but it kind of just looked like any other game, or even worse than some other games, like current-gen games, whereas this was supposed to be a next-gen title. Now, I think that Microsoft made some marketing mistakes on this one. One of them is that they didn't showcase the open world tech. The open world tech is what we are hearing is supposed to be the big next gen thing with this game.
No.
Sorry?
phenomenal, huge, new, amazing content and creation and interactions and all this kind of crazy stuff, and you're like, oh my goodness, that sounds amazing, until you find out that it's not amazing, because it's not. That's not what they focused on in showing in the trailer. So it's not amazing in the trailer because you don't even see it in the trailer, and that's really weird that they've decided to do that. That they decided to do that. Very odd.
Yeah, that was an odd choice. Now, they probably, to be fair to them, they probably heard the criticism after their previous showcase and realized, oh, we'd better show some gameplay. So they showed Halo gameplay. But they just, there was another big mistake made here. And that is, well, there's a few things. Well, we'll kind of dig down into this. And I won't get overly technical, but Digital Foundry, a great YouTube channel, did an analysis of why it looked the way it did. Why did everything look so flat and crappy? And so they slowed down the footage. They took a close look at it, and what they came up with was this. I'm going to put a few shots from their video on the screen. I definitely recommend checking out the video that they did on this, because it goes into much more depth than I'm going to here. But you see the title of it on the top of the screen there now, so you can look up that video on Digital Foundry's channel and get a lot more insight. But basically, they came to the conclusion that the game was lit because it doesn't use bounce lighting and it doesn't use ray tracing, which, I'll be honest, why not? Like, it's supposed to be, again, it's supposed to be this flagship game for the Xbox Series X, which has that capability.
What I've heard is that this will become available to new consoles.
Yeah, there's some kind of a patch that will be added after the fact, and so that will probably make it look way better. But this game
especially if they've done all the lighting meshes and all the lighting textures properly, we're looking at a game that is going to be like looking at basic Minecraft versus Minecraft with ray tracing, which I don't know if you've seen those pictures, but it's like night and day. And how they haven't done this, like how they didn't showcase this in this way, is a little shocking, and it's a little weird that they didn't, but I can kind of understand why. But also just their lighting technology, their lighting and shadow technology is antiquated at best. Really antiquated.
Yes, absolutely.
Really antiquated.
Now, granted, like, this is supposed to run on the current gen systems too, which surprised me. I don't know why they're not going for exclusively next gen. I mean, it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I was surprised by that, but they should definitely up the lighting tech for the next gen system. In my opinion, like, that would be foolish not to do, because then why would someone want to buy your next system if you're not going to up the ante as far as the tech, especially with the amazing visuals that we saw from the Sony showcase. So there's that. But they basically, Digital Foundry came to the conclusion that they're using, yes, a very, very current gen lighting technique called indirect light probes. And you see a side by side here. You can actually see, if you slow down the video, after they close the menu at one point, you can see the light probes loading in. You can't see it very well with this side by side, but he shows an animation of it in the video, and you can see it loading in. Now, what these light probes are is basically very, very rough approximations of indirect lighting in the world. So you have your direct lighting, like when a character's in direct sunlight or being directly within the eyesight, the eye line of a lamp or something. That's direct lighting. Indirect lighting, we see all the time in the real world. Even when you're in shadow, there's some light that's bouncing off other objects. So that's what ray tracing and other forms of bounce lighting do very well. But if you don't have that tech built into your game, you have to find other ways of doing it, and they do it, looks like, with one of these ways is these light probes, which just do a very rough approximation of the bounce lighting. And this is kind of how it works. So you on the left here, you see the simplified probe of the lighting map, like basically what the light looks like at a certain point in the scene, and they kind of wrap that around the character model, and on the right you see the effect it has. So up on top of his head, it's kind of lit by the sky, and then down at the bottom it's kind of, he looks kind of greenish because there's like green light coming up off the grass or whatever. But you can also see that it looks very fake, very flat, very like, it doesn't look very good. And this is an exaggerated example, but this is kind of what's going on in this Halo scene. Because if you look at the time of day that they chose to show the gameplay from, it looked like late evening. And so there were just huge areas of the map that were not within direct lighting, right? The huge areas of the map that were in shadows from the mountains or the big structures and that kind of thing. And that's where a lot of the gameplay was happening. So one of the things that this probe lighting also does not do is it does not do self-shadowing. So areas of the character that should be more in shadow, like the dude's armpits or like crotch or the shadow cast by his arm, you see on the right-hand side what self-shadowing kind of should look like. It doesn't do that because it doesn't take into account which direction the light is coming from as far as the indirect bounce lighting. And so here's the effect it has. On the left-hand side, you see Master Chief's rifle is in shadow. It looks very flat, very plain. On the right-hand side, it's in direct light, and it still looks kind of flat, but if you look at the top, that highlighted portion, you know, where the light is directly hitting it, you can see it's got the details there. It's got the scuff marks. It's got kind of a rougher texture. So this is the problem. So these models have, they have like bump maps and glow maps and various things built into the texture that are designed to react to light in a certain way. And when it's in shadow, those don't show up because it's just, there's no light directly hitting it. It's just got this probe lighting kind of wrapped around the model. So that's why it looked so disgusting. I've got some other examples here. You can see it on this gun and Master Chief's hand. When it's in direct light, looks a lot better. And this one especially, this one was striking because
Such a difference.
yeah, it looks super flat on the left when it's in shadow, but on the right you can actually see like the texture on top of the gun. It has this hexagonal pattern on it that looks really cool, and it reflects light in various ways. And you just don't see that when it's in the shadow. So that was the disappointing thing. Here also, you see this Elite here. Just looks totally flat. Looks like a cardboard cutout. When he rolls into the shadow. Now, as an example of how different it could look, here's an example they used from Metro Exodus. So the guy on the left is lit with this standard illumination, which is a similar type of illumination to what we saw in the Halo Infinite gameplay. And on the right, we see the same character, same scene, lit with hardware ray tracing for the, ray traced global illumination. Massive difference. And even you can see even more difference in this scene here. Look at how crazy different that is. So looks like you've just got the one window in this scene with the light pouring in, and on the left, everything just kind of glows. Like everything is literally emitting its own light to a certain extent because it's got these. That's what these light probe things do. On the right, you've got way more realistic rendering of how light is bouncing around in the scene. And so you can especially see it on the top sort of third, that shelf up top, the shadows up there. Like it just looks so different. So that is why it looked like crap. So this leads to a few questions. One, why did they choose that time of day to film the gameplay? That seems like...
Well, I don't know if you know this, but the Halo ring, it doesn't rotate around the sun
What
like
happened?
a planet
Sorry,
does because you're inside of the what?
we lost your audio there for a sec, but anyway, carry
Oh,
on.
good lord. Yeah, audio. Wow. Okay, that's
You're good
yeah.
now. You're good now.
I'm seeing some weird bugs. Yeah, I'm seeing some weird. Oh, don't you love Discord? But no, no, no. I was being facetious. I was joking because it's a Halo ring. It doesn't experience the same night and day things because it's not a planet.
Right.
Which means that their whole design feature for this lighting system was just really, really terrible.
Well, the reason they did it this way is partly because of this open world that they're building. They wanted it to have dynamic lighting. The lighting's going to change. Presumably based on time of day. I don't know how that works with, like, there's a sun in the sky, obviously, but maybe the ring rotates. I don't know. They wanted it to have full dynamic lighting. So, like, when you get really good looking indirect lighting in current gen or previous gen games, a lot of what they do is they bake the lighting into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they can make it look really good. They can make it look really realistic, but the lights can't move. You know, they have to stay where they are. If you want lights that move and shadows that react dynamically, you have to have dynamic lighting, and it's just really hard to do indirect lighting well using current gen techniques. This is where ray tracing, bounce lighting of various types are really going to improve this in the next generation of games.
Yeah.
That indirect lighting, that's really what's going to give these games their a super realistic feel.
And I mean, it's so significant that you can have games like Minecraft that have blocky, basic graphics that, and you take that and you can make it look amazing. So how much more could you take, an older game or a game that's not really, hasn't really been out for a very long time? How much more can you take that and then just revolutionize everything?
Mm-hmm.
The visual look of it. That means a lot of older games can come back, or games that are using older graphical engines are really going to be able to morph over the next few years, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that changes and evolves. So
yeah. But this... go ahead.
Yeah, there's a super chat. Thank you so much to Max Durat.
Yeah.
It says, just give me a classic Halo 2, 3 gameplay and I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And he also mentioned earlier, the problem is that 343 wants to return to Halo's classic identity, including its art style. So how do you balance new graphical fidelity with art direction? And then there's a follow-up chat from Terror K. You can up the quality of the models and retain the old art style without being low poly. Both Halo 3 and Reach look far better than the original Xbox Halo games, especially in MCC.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I appreciate that they want to go back to the original feel and style. They want to get some of those original Halo fans to be excited about this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were some puzzling decisions made here, though. Like, why use the old style lighting on your new console that is capable of so much more? And Digital Foundry also pointed out they were targeting, was it 120 FPS at 4K? Which, of course, is very resource intensive. But they made the trade-off with level of detail and with lighting, because there's also a lot of level of detail pop and, assets popping in and out in the gameplay demo. And it's not like we were watching like an early beta. This is a game that's coming out in a few months. So, puzzling. Why? And he made the point, and I agree. Why wouldn't you go for just a much better visual fidelity at a slightly lower resolution and frame rate? Like, say you targeted 1440p, 90 frames per second, and reduce the load there, and invest in a much higher visual fidelity at that resolution. I think that would be That would be way better. I mean, yeah, it sounds great to say, hey, 4K 120 FPS, but at what cost? At the cost of your game looking very flat and very like.
Well, I think if they can just bring the ray tracing in to the game, that'll fix pretty much all of the issues with this.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's just why that wouldn't be a launch feature. I mean, unless they just didn't have time. But like to bring that in as a patch
Probably
after the
didn't have
fact
time.
is just baffling to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is your new console. This is supposed to be a like, okay, Halo's been a flagship of the Xbox since the beginning. Why? It was a very puzzling decision that they wouldn't do that as a launch feature. They wouldn't be like, yes, we're gonna show you next gen lighting. I mean, lighting is kind of accurate. Lighting is kind of the holy grail of video game graphics. So that you wouldn't invest more in that on your next gen, and then if you're playing it on the Xbox One, and you don't have that capability, and it uses the old style lighting, okay, you can still play the game. It doesn't look as good, but you can still play the game on your old console. But if you buy the new Xbox, it just looks way, way, way better. I mean, that sells itself. In my opinion. So, yeah, some puzzling decisions on that end. Anyway, hopefully that explains why it kind of looked the way it did. And, scenes where there's more direct lighting, it should look way better. And we've seen hints of that. But it's just very, so much of it was filmed in areas with indirect lighting that it just wound up looking like that. And unfortunately, is a very bad first impression from Microsoft with Halo Infinite.
I think once people get a chance to play the game, I think they'll probably like it a lot more. Like because it's all about the gameplay, and they're really trying to bring this back to like the first 1, 2, and 3 kind of feel.
Yeah.
Not going to all this crazy wiggy stuff. The only thing that they've really added is this grappling hook, which honestly looks pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't like being Scorpion, screaming "Get over here!" or bringing my booty over there, that kind of thing. So it's something that I look at it and I'm like, I like once they fix the visual problem, and there obviously is a major problem with it, I think the gameplay will end up taking over because, again, as we've said even in this podcast today, there are old games that are being played more than new games because the old games have better gameplay. And I actually think this game has better gameplay. Obviously, there's some like oddity when it comes to it, but this is not a problem I think we have to worry about essentially.
Not too much, because it's like you said, it's the gameplay, it's a story, and kind of like your brain will piece together kind of like the rest. So while like it is a bit distracting seeing kind of how the lightning's like kind of flat like that, but at the same time, like there's so much more to it.
Yeah, and I also agree with Side that I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a bad game. It's just unfortunate that like it was just so noticeably last gen. It was disappointing just on the graphics end of it, So that's unfortunate. All right, any final thoughts, or should we wrap up? That was our last topic of the day.
So should probably mention, I'm in the Shadowlands Alpha right now, or Beta, or whatever you want to call it. Beta, I think it is.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing some more showcases kind of slowly. We are going to be streaming this pretty heavily come the pre-patch and the official launch in the fall. It's a game that has had a lot of improvement overall, enough that that I think I want to chase after it for the most important thing that it can offer, and that is community. Community is the number one everything to this game, period. It's in any MMO or multiplayer game, it's really the community that makes the game worth it. And I'm interested in bringing people along for the ride, and going about it fairly casually and just kind of doing what we can and having fun. And that's the most important thing, because whether it's Sea of Thieves or Grounded or a couple of these other games that involve the community, I think fun is the best thing that we can go for. And if you're interested in fun, join us for the ride. I'm going to be going through the new starting. There's a new starting area for new players who've never played the game. You're going to be able to see and feel and get to experience what the game actually will be like for you, playing from a new person's perspective. And you're not going to be as intimidated with all of the new, with all the stuff in, for 15 years the game has been around. You're not going to be, that's not going to be a barrier to you once you see the way that the game starts out new again. So we're going to be going through that, and we're going to be doing some of that. So stay tuned. We'll have some probably even today. I'm going to showcase some of this stuff. So if you're around today, tomorrow, we're going to be taking a look at some of this kind of stuff and kind of looking at where the game is at right now, and then where you as a new player can kind of, or returning player can kind of return in and kind of get that get a newer, better experience with the content that's there right now.
Right.
So yeah,
and you'll be streaming in the Discord server.
Yeah, probably in the Discord server. Ultimately, we'll be streaming on Twitch pretty regularly once it goes live. So we'll be on Twitch all the time.
All right. Sounds good. And with that, we will wrap up the show. So thank you so much, everybody, for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you for supporting this show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. We really appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Some big things coming from us, so you wanna stay tuned for that. But yeah, that also tells YouTube that you appreciate this content and increases the chances that it'll recommend it to other people. So we definitely appreciate that. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters and channel members who help to make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon: Robin, Shua82, Time Bean, Schoolaman, Lady Reaver, and our 2 anonymous supporters there at that tier. Thank you so much. Our channel members on YouTube: Mr. Pazdernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K Somnolence, and our newest member, _let on. Thank you so much. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms that this podcast goes to, we appreciate your interactions there as well. But don't forget, you can join the live show on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where you can interact with us and be a part of the discussion. See the Discord server for exact times and schedules. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash on behalf of Cyb and Moontag. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.